Hello, can you see the presentation? Okay, let's start. My name is Rafaela and my motivation started 2 years ago when I started dedicating my doctoral thesis on the phenomenon of deglobalization. So I decided to carry out an integrative literature review on this topic in the search for a new structure of the post-2009 phenomenon and possible gaps in the literature. The title of the article is Deglobalization, an Integrative Literature Review post-2009. The article was written by me, Cristina Calegario, and Ludmila FLORIS in University Federal of Lavras, Brazil. Let's go to the presentation schedule. First, I shall the contextualization, followed by the introduction, methodology, discussions, future research, and conclusions. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, we saw significant growth in globalization. Globalization, which according to some authors, has a cyclical movement, that is, period of peak in cross-border integration, heat wave of globalization, and valley period in cross-border integration, heat wave of deglobalization. Some authors believe that we are going through a new wave of deglobalization. This new wave may have been intensified by the emergence of some nationalist parties and their consequent rise to power, with a message for the extreme right, xenophobic, homophobic, racist, nationalist, and anti-globalization. In recent years, there has been an increase in skepticism about the benefits generated by globalization. The anti-globalization movement has not only been an academic concern. The subject has made headlines in some magazines such as Harvard Business Review, The Economist, among others. So, would deglobalization mark an event and turning point? Assuming real and persistent deglobalization, we will see the same structure, behavior, and strategies as before. Before talking about the phenomenon of deglobalization, it's necessary to understand globalization. Globalization is commonly defined in international business as the process of increasing interdependence between nations. Consequently, deglobalization represents the process of weakening this interdependence. A sign of globalization or deglobalization is what occurs in the world of the whole. It's not treating each nation individually. Here we can see the graph that links with the wave of globalization with cross-border integration. First, global economy, 1840 1929. First, deglobalization, 1929 to 1979. Second, global economy, 1979 2008. In new deglobalization, 2008 to 2017. We can include the COVID-19 crisis. Both waves of globalization have been driven by the economy, politics, and technology. The two waves of globalization are marked by the first global economy is reflecting a long period of relative peace, increased British dominance of the international economic system, dramatic increases in the productivity resulting from the Industrial Revolution, in technology revolution in transport. The second global economy is which reflected a long period of relative peace. The neoliberal belief of market economies reign, rise of the East Asian economies. In 1989, this world scenario had as parameter extinction of the Soviet Union, and the Cold War. USA has a hyperpower, rise of Asia, Japan, reorientation of the world by regional blocs. US a paradigmatic case. In 2008, the world scenario had as parameter multi-platform conflicts and tensions, terrorism, cyber vandalism, religious issue, etc. USA plagued by an isolationist populist wave, rise of Asia, China. stagnation of integration dynamics, Brecht as an example. Given this framework, in recent years, especially after the 2008 financial crisis, there has been skepticism about the benefit generated by globalization, basically create two concerns arising from this anti-globalization movement: the unequal distribution of the benefits of globalization and the emerging restriction of sovereign national. This period has been characterized by the rise of nation-states to power, raising flags to repudiate existing trade treaties, raising barriers against imports, and building walls. There has been a considerable increase in work citing the phenomenon of deglobalization. However, there is no dedicated reviews regarding the conceptual structure of the theme in order to synthesize and interact with previous research on the phenomenon. The purpose of this article is to fill this gap by conducting an integrative review of academic articles reviewed by the most relevant peers filterable from 2009 on deglobalization in 5 different research databases. Methodology. The integrative literature review can be used as a tool to synthesize the existing literature to generate new structure. It is appropriate to address the concepts and phenomena that are emerging. This literature review process is critical to improve conceptual development, especially in advanced areas. The objective is mainly two. 1. Critical analysis of the existing literature. 2. Synthesis of the knowledge of existing literature. And 3. Create a new structure or model from the review to build new proposals for future research. This study examines a wide range of research papers, regardless of whether they are empirical or non-empirical, qualitative or quantitative research. The research strategy involves accessing several databases which are Emerald Insight, Science Direct, Scopus, Web of Science, and Wiley Read Online. In relation to the search, the keyword were searched: deglobalization or deglobalization, deglobalization or deglobalization, and anti-globalization or anti-globalization. The choice for these keywords has a due to the variation in the writing of the word. The search process had several results, of which the most relevant articles were selected and reviewed. The search process generated 979 abstracts, which were evaluated one by one for the final selection of words. The total of 68 regularly relevant articles were selected and reviewed. Comments, editorials, book reviews, new articles, great literature, point of view articles were excluded. Discussions. After integrating the analyzed articles, we believe that some constructs are extremely relevant to the proposed conceptual model. Are they? The institutional and political environment that affects the strategy of multinational companies, and theirs are also affected by it. Protection which, based on nationalist and populist policies, moderate some relation between the institutional and political environment and the globalization. It was clear that countries where protectionist policies are present, the phenomenon of deglobalization is intensifying. The strategy of multinational companies in the environment and this environment may also undergo change in terms of national context in the choice of location and the transfer of technology. Buckley believes that the transfer of technology from complex technology can be hampered in protectionist environments. Also, we did not believe that is the end of globalization. The change proposed by this new global order may require change in the strategy of multinational companies. The COVID-19 pandemic may have made some relationships more difficult.
Given the conceptual model from the Integrated Literature Review, some possible questions are raised. What is the impact of deglobalization / protectionism on the new emerging global order in terms of institutional structure? What will be the behavior of M&Es in terms of location strategy in face of exogenous shocks and under threat of deglobalization? What is the impact of deglobalization in terms of the transfer of international technology? Conclusions. This review was an effort to facilitate researchers and professionals interested in the phenomenon of deglobalization, being able to proceed with research in this field with the help of the proposed structure on the question of future research pointed out. The conceptual perspectives were integrated to formulate a new structure of deglobalization post-2009. A. Institutional and political environment. B. Protectionism. C. Exogenous shocks. And D. Strategy of multinational companies. The implication of deglobalization in the economy, social and political terms inform a fruitful research agenda and is still little explored in the international business literature when related to the phenomenon of protectionism and the behavior of multinational companies, especially empirical studies on this subject theme. Thank you for listening to me. Bye-bye.